Hello, Lila. It's such a pleasure to have you here in Growth Mindset On podcast in Spain. I'm very pleased for you to accepting the invitation. And the first thing I would like our listeners to know is what do you do, Lila?
Sure. Thank you, Christina, for having me. It's great to be connected to you. I know that you have kind of the same audience that I do. A lot of entrepreneurs, thought leaders, people who are trying to think about how to do something differently using what they already have in many cases. So thank you for providing the value that you do and for including me in that. To introduce myself, I'm Lila. I created a method of intentional communication that's based on my work in theater. I spent over 10 years as a professional actress and learned in that process so many very powerful communication tools for acting. And I used those tools after and during acting in my other career as I successfully led multiple brands to multi-million-dollar success in e-commerce and retail and community outreach. So now what I'm doing is taking those same tools that I know work and I'm giving them to other people. So my whole goal is to power up a whole world of super communicators. And that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people to communicate with intention and tell their story, to connect better with their audience, to their coworkers, to people in their lives, and never let it be something that they just have happen. The communication is something that we do. So I help people to be active and be intentional when they communicate.
Thank you so much for describing it. I wouldn't have done it better. I find interesting the fact that you talk about intentional communication. How would you say? How would you define intentional communication? Because I found that interesting. It's a very interesting definition. So yes, I would like to know more about it. What would you find as intent communication or intentional?
Yeah, we often just communicate without thinking why we're doing it or what the effect is going to be on the person that we're talking to or listening to, because communication is also listening. And I think if we decide before we communicate, either by talking or listening, and talking, could be sharing a social media post or writing an article or putting out a statement, whatever it is that is talking or listening is communication. Maybe even a picture, a visual image or a painting is going to have some kind of an effect on the person who's receiving that communication. So my goal is to help people to decide what they want that effect to be and keep that end goal in mind at the beginning before they communicate. And it's a tool that I teach people through Verb Your Values, which is the 5th step of the Say Things Better method that I created. It's about taking what you value about your connection with another person and being intentional about making sure that you achieve that through communication. When I communicate with somebody new, somebody I've communicated with for a long time, anybody, it is my goal to affirm, to connect, and to empower. So I use those 3 verbs to guide myself. And that's one of the tenets that I help people to understand for their own communication. Just deciding what you want to do to that other person as you are communicating.
Wow, that's fantastic, because it's true. Sometimes we do communicate, or probably we do share some content or write content, or we, in order to just do it. We don't have an objective in mind, and I think that's definitely super crucial, knowing before you're doing it with an objective. So that's fantastic. That's such a great idea. I suppose this came out because you saw people struggling, like doing an extra effort to share their voice or to speak up, but without any specific objective.
The objective for what I call one communication event is what you want to get out of something. And that could be a call to action. Maybe it's, I want you to sign up for my newsletter on saythingsbetter.com. Maybe it's, I want you to hire me as a coach. Maybe it's, I want you to make a connection for somebody else. Whatever that objective is, that's the 2nd step. And I can go through the 5 steps if you want. But the point of having an objective for one communication event is so that you can be clear and stay on task. And then thinking about your communication partner's objective, right? Like what would make this communication event a success for them? The verb your value step is not about the content, it's about how you make people feel. So having an objective for what you want to get out of something, understanding that they want to get out a certain level of value too, but then also making sure that you're making people feel something in the way that you really want them to feel.
Mm. Well, that's fantastic, because I think many companies do not have that in mind as an objective. So, what do you do with companies who don't have a mission statement, or do not know the value of an efficient or intentional communication would bring to the company? What do you do in these cases? Because I suppose there are leaders or CEOs of the companies who are unable to see the benefits in having an efficient communication. What do you do in those cases?
One of the things that I have in my toolbox is a whole arsenal full of testimonials. I think that social proof and having examples, as well as a body of work in my content that people can watch, can understand, can see, visualize themselves as a hero going through my story, that whatever I'm sharing, they can imagine themselves having the benefit of it. So sharing a problem, a solution, and a result in content is very helpful. So that's one of the things that I do through marketing and outreach efforts, is really saying just to the population in general, here's what this looks like. If this has ever come up for you, imagine what it would be like if you were clear on what you were saying. If you ever got caught in an elevator, for example, and you didn't know how to tell Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York City, and tell him who you are and what you did. Think of how nervous you would be. If I met him, I would want him to know that I have tools that he can use to eliminate the gray area, the confusion, the dropped balls, and all the many projects across his organization. So I would talk about what those issues are and what some of the solutions might be and what they've been for other people, and include, hey, for example, I did this workshop at this company last month, and here's where they are now. So I think sometimes we need those stories to help us get on board and visualize our own potential.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially because I think we don't even companies, but also individuals, we are not aware of that, of how important is how we come across, or the person we are talking to, or the person we are directing ourselves to, because maybe our message has to be adapted according to the person we have in front of us. So it's essential to know that, to know what is your objective to get out of that conversation, or with that communicative action, in order to know where we are heading, and in order to adequate our message to them. So that's fantastic that we have professionals like you doing that, because communication is so important also for business, but also how we connect with other people as individuals. So I definitely think that that's super important. I would like to know, do you focus on any type of communication, or you are more focusing on company communication, doing a little bit of everything? Like, what is your forte, or what you enjoy doing the most, or where do you think you're helping people more?
What I started doing this month, and we're recording this in March of 2019, is a communication mastermind, where I have a lot of people who are in most cases entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, but in some way a leader, a thought leader, and defining thought leadership as the way that you do things and think about things differently, and having a desired impact, having your way of doing things or thinking things be something you want to encourage other people to adopt and that you want to be known for. So I help those people with messaging, to talk about what they do, to plan out a series of content that helps other people to understand why they need their help, why they need their guidance, and what the benefit would be of thinking about things their way. So I can see myself doing more groups like this, like intentional communication for individuals, where I do a group version of my one-on-one personal communication coaching. And that I love as well. But this group format, I think, has been working really well. And it also does give people access to lower rates working with me one-on-one. And that's really helpful too. So I love doing the company workshops. I love having, going in for a day and giving people tools that they can use for the rest of the existence of their business. And I love setting up that framework for businesses that I really believe could make a difference. And that's really important to me. So whether it's big businesses that I'm doing these workshops for, or individuals who are trying to in some way breathe life into other people or start something new, or it's individuals who care about their communication, right now I still kind of want to do it all. Most of my work is in helping people talk about what they do, but I really enjoy exploring all of it right now.
So when you say messaging, you're referring to the message they get out there, no? You fine tune, you help them to fine tune according to their values, as you were saying, you were mentioning yours before. According to their values, you help them out to get their message there. That's what you mean in this case. Am I right?
Yes, about the message people receive, and also the message that they then feel able to tell other people. So if I know what you do and I'm very clear on it because your message was clear, I can then be kind of an ambassador for you and pass it on and say, hey, I just heard about Christina. Do you know about her podcast? She talks to people about all different ways to communicate and to be efficient marketers in entrepreneurship. And so whatever it is that you want your message to be, it's your responsibility to make sure I know it so that I can go and tell it to other people.
Well, yeah, that's true. I listened to this person saying, when people ask you, the first thing when you meet someone and people ask you, what do you do? Most of people don't have a specific answer. You know, they say, well, I'm doing this. And that's such a waste of time, because how you come across, that could be, you know, it's your USP. So I was thinking, this made me think about myself. Whenever people ask me, at least I didn't have an answer, a specific answer that I would give to everyone. So it resonates with what you're just saying at the moment, because it's super crucial. How do you define yourself, and keeping that message or that personal branding, keeping it across all the channels in the same, and with all the people around you, because if you always say the same, it's easier to remember, or people know easily identify with that message. It's like this is like Lady Gaga's type of message. When she was promoting the movie, she was saying at every single TV show she was invited to, she was saying the same thing. So it's very interesting that, and I think there is a lot of waste, no, us as individuals, whenever we get that question, and it's fantastic to know, at least to be aware that we need to work on our message. We work on our communication. We need to work on how we come across.
I think that's a great example with Lady Gaga and being on different television shows. And so, yes, her message was always the same, and it was prepared. It's not that the words were exactly the same, but you understood exactly what she wanted you to about the story is that she wanted people to understand about themselves. And those things are, that overarching message being really clear helps people to understand why they should buy a ticket and go see it, and also why they should look up to her as a leader in her industry. But there's something else. When you think about Lady Gaga doing these TV shows, they all kind of have one communication partner, which is a TV show audience. If she were being interviewed by Billboard magazine, which is about music and has a followership of readers who like to learn more about musicians as people, their stories, and the story behind the music, then she might be telling different parts of her story. So pulling different things out of her toolbox to connect with what that audience would be. If she were being interviewed by a theater school, she might talk about her own experience growing up in New York and doing musical theater to connect with that audience. She knows what she wants people to know right now and what she wants them to do. Her objective is get them to buy a ticket, get them to vote for her, whatever that objective is. But she also tailors her communication to her communication partner. And that's part of being intentional with your communication too. So you can have one message to say, this is what I do. But when you're talking to somebody, when I'm talking to somebody who is a potential personal communication coaching client, then I'm going to talk about my relationship that I was in, where I had somebody tell me, you shouldn't be offended because you know it wasn't my intention to upset you. And because I'm in theater and because I have these tools to set intentions, I was smart enough to know that that wasn't good enough, that it's not good enough to say, you know, it's not my intention. So because that is a sample, an example from my life, from my toolbox of personal communication. If I'm talking to a client who might be interested in that kind of coaching, that's the story I'm going to tell. It's a true story. It's authentically me, but it's specific to what their needs might be and what their objectives are in communication improvement.
Wow, that's such a great example, because this takes me to think also whenever we're doing sales. I mean, when most of the people at the end of the day, we want to sell our products, or we want to have more people subscribing to them, or we want to have more followers, and so on and so forth. And you were just mentioning this, that the objective of Lady Gaga maybe was for people to go and buy a ticket and see her show. And it takes me to the selling as a company. No, it's one of the things that you need to do, and I think that's definitely communication. You need to know who is the person you're talking to, or know your user, or know the end user, in order to know your message.
That's exactly right.
So
We all do a lot of different things. When you talk about sales for a company, your product or service might have a ton of benefits that it offers to different communication partners, but you're not usually going to be on a phone call with all of them at the same time. And you're not usually going to be targeting all of them with your paid digital advertising at the same time either. So you can define your communication partner using parameters through Google targeting, through Facebook ads. You can define who your communication partner is, and then refine your message accordingly.
Wow, it's fantastic. Definitely, that's something that can apply to so many areas in a company. I think it's so important to know it. And as I was saying, probably companies do not realize that. At least I think here in Spain we're a little bit backwards. Sorry to say that, but in terms of knowing how important is communication, how we come across our customers or our clients, or even if we have a community, and both any type of leadership you're having, you need to know your message well, and know and be empathic with your followers, or with your customers, or your prospective leads whatsoever. So you need to definitely know them more, learn more about them, in order to, as you're saying, just you have a toolbox and you just take out what is necessary for that person or customer you're talking to. So that's so fantastic that I can see that your methodology is not only just for individuals, probably to speak better in meetings or be better speakers or brand ambassadors of their companies, but it's also important to a company as a whole.
That's right. And when you think about sales and the sales training managers, that toolbox image is really powerful. When you think about the people who are going to be on the phone with customers, or who are going to be emailing them, or responding to any kind of customer service inquiry, these are people who need to be armed with all the tools in the toolbox, but not just having the tools, and in this case, the tools being the benefits of your service or product, but also being an understanding of when you would use each one and for whom. What problem does each tool fix, so that when you hear somebody's story and you hear what their top priority problems are, you know which wrench to take out of the toolbox to fix and tighten that bolt. You're not going to, as a sales training manager, you have all of this information to empower your team with. But if you just dump all of the tools in your toolbox out onto their laps and say, go, it's really not helpful. It's really not. You have to also train them which tools, which time, and for whom they actually work.
Well, this reminds me, because I used to work in sales some time ago, and definitely there was a type of manager I had. They would give us a training, like a very broad training. These are the tools you should use, and here you go. And we wouldn't be told which one to use specifically for what type of customers, because there are definitely many types, or if they want something else, they have different needs. So that was something I struggled, and I was telling myself and my colleagues, I was like, we definitely need a coach here, because we need to know how to adequate our speech accordingly, so that definitely defined me. What you just mentioned defined me, the type of ineffective sales training manager we had. So that's fantastic. Besides that, I also I've seen that you also are very involved being a LinkedIn host. Am I right?
Yes, so LinkedIn Local is a series of events that people have been doing all over the world since Anna McAfee started it in Coffs Harbour, Australia. And so now there are hundreds of cities all over the world who host these events. They're networking events, but they're not the kind of networking event where you take your business card, tell people what kind of business you want, what kind of leads you need, and then they try and connect the dots for you. Because the truth is, we end up with a lot of business cards from those events and no real reason to do that, no real reason to connect the dots for somebody, because we didn't take the time to get to know them and care about them. So we maybe will remember what the message was. Oh, that person needs to connect to tradesmen, or that person needs to connect to construction companies. That person needs to connect to sales training managers, and this person needs to connect to, we just don't end up caring at the end of the night from those kinds of events, because we didn't learn things like that person is from New York and moved to Dallas. We didn't learn things like that person loves travel. That person has 6 children. And so we end up caring about people because we know them as human beings. And that's when we are incentivized to learn more about whether or not they even are the best at what they do before we make that referral. So first, caring about people as human beings is one of the tenets of the LinkedIn Local events, coming to connect with the people beyond the profiles that we see on LinkedIn. We can always go back and look at the profile later.
It's fantastic, because I think definitely having an online tool as LinkedIn to connect people, but being able to take that from the online environment and take it to offline, where people can meet face to face and engage differently. I mean, it's not the same engaging online, because probably most of the conversation are more formal, whereas in first person are way individual. You get to feel the people's I don't know, humor more. What do they feel? What are their struggles? It's also, face-to-face intimacy. Provide that type of safe environment where you can share these things. So it's fantastic. I bet you got a lot of many connections, and you met fantastic people by doing this.
Yes, I've traveled all over the world and attended LinkedIn Local events in different places. My friend Rachel West Palumbo and I are the originating co-founders of LinkedIn Local New York City. So we're not co-founders, co-hosts of LinkedIn Local New York City. And she and I hosted these events together for months. We developed a community that we knew who would come and see us and attend these events. We had speakers come to add value to the community and give us something to talk about, something to walk away with that improved us in some way, but also a topic for discussion, so that we could connect on something and not have all the pressure be on us to say, hi, I'm this person and I have 6 children. Some people don't know what to say. So having a speaker at those events was really helpful to give people a topic to gather around. And whenever I go to different events, everybody does them in their own way. Every city has a different flavor. Kristen Olsencott and Adam Crush in Detroit have a different flavor than David Holland from Luxembourg. That those hosts do it a different way, because they have different communication partners. They have different audiences, people who are going to come to their events and do things a little bit differently. But the one thing that is always true of all of these events, if they are really truly LinkedIn Local events, is that they are focused on that human connection and facilitating it in whatever way that host feels is the right way for their people.
What is the process? Imagine that one of our listeners would like to become a LinkedIn local host. What is the process to do that? I'm just curious because I haven't heard of it here in Spain. So maybe there are listeners who would be interested in starting it and moving it forward.
LinkedIn Local, if you're interested in becoming a host in your city, go to linkedinlocal.com. And I'll send you the link following this so that you can post it for people listening to your podcast. And there's a link on there that says become a host.
Nice. So that's fantastic because I mean I've moved to Barcelona like a year and a half ago, and I haven't heard of it. I knew of other events, many meetups, but I haven't heard of about LinkedIn locally. I suppose in the United States it's definitely like a bigger movement. I don't know why I haven't heard of it, but I will be happy to check it out and see if I can collaborate or if any of the listeners are interested in doing that. In order to also wrap up our conversation, being today International Women's Day, so
International Women's Day.
it's
international women.
So yeah, that's true. That's international women talking, connecting. So, what is your experience as a female founder, starting your own business or your own consultancy of Say Things Better? Which advice would you give other female founders?
I think using framing tools is really helpful to get your point across. Being intentional in your communication so that your values are always evident, so that people always know who you are when you're speaking, and staying consistent in that over time does build the trust that you need. I have had a lot of experience not being listened to as a woman in business a long time before I was ever founder of my own. So I was in an e-commerce department for 3 years, and in many cases working with, and I won't name any names, but some men and women who would be partners on projects, big projects, replatforming, redesigning of the website, marketing partners, affiliate network partners, just so many different people that we would have to have very high level conversations with. And there's a tendency for people who are insecure to try and talk over somebody else. And that's something that I think is specifically a female experience very much more often than it is a male experience.
Yeah.
That we feel that people are talking over us or that they haven't heard us. So I would say, instead of trying to say it a different way, try and use a framing tool just to give somebody an actionable specific tool to try. Try and say the same thing every time it happens. Hey, Christina, I really am excited to hear what you have to say, but I want to finish this first. And then continue saying what you're going to say. And the next time you get interrupted again, hey, Christina, I really want to hear what you have to say, but I do want to finish this first.
Yeah.
You can say it a few different ways, but the words being the same calls it out for people the same way as the ringing of a bell, that they realize they are an interrupter. And it doesn't have to happen that many times for somebody to realize that it's happening. And it also sends a message to other people in a group, in a room, that you will advocate for your own voice and that you will advocate for your own time. And it's not you saying, would you stop talking for a minute and just let me finish? Because that achieves the opposite effect. So it's something that you can do specifically to be polite, but still get your message across that you are not to be interrupted. Another thing that is important for women, especially women founders, because you have something that is so important to say that you have built your whole life around this. To be an entrepreneur, to start something that wasn't there before and to do it your way has been so vital to you that you have changed your actions. You have put your family in an economically tenuous position. You have taken a lot of risks. It's got to be for a reason. So you have something to say. You know that it's important. Go out there and purposefully say it and just practice using your voice. When you're on a platform like LinkedIn or any social media platform, consider your voice so important that you must share in the comments. You and your expertise are valuable. And if you provide them in comments, people will see that over and over again, that you're willing to provide and add value from your context in addition to somebody else. So being affirmative, expanding on ideas, saying what you had to say was interesting and it made me think this, and then pulling something out that's additionally of value is another good way to practice using your voice. So just stay practiced, be intentional, and give yourself some credit and use as many tools as you can find.
Wow, that was so, it got me really into my heart, no? Because the way you said it, and I can feel that you are passionate about it. You can tell that definitely you have a lot to say about it, as you're saying, and the way you just told me, I was like, because sometimes it's true. I do it myself. I don't know if other women or even other men. I struggle to think that what I can say it's enough. I don't know if that is insecurity. I don't know if I've been told to probably I don't have anything interesting to say, or even probably I've been like said been talked over in conversation, no, and somebody else comes across when you're talking and say, no, this is because of that, and just takes your voice, no. And it's so inspiring seeing you. I think I touched a weak point. No, not a weak point, but like something that you are so passionate about, and it's fantastic seeing you defending and telling people that it's so necessary to share and speak up and share that voice, because each voice is unique. Each person has something unique to provide. I just took notes on it because I think it's something I also need to remind myself. So definitely I'm taking that as a personal advice, and I'm sure that also our listeners are super excited to hear that and apply that in their lives too.
Even just listening to you say, we're sometimes told that we're not interesting enough. That gave me an idea for a piece of content that I'm going to share, because it's something that it's another thought. It's another idea.
Yeah.
And you never know what it is that you're going to say that's going to strike somebody else at the right time for them to have an idea. Sometimes it's not just about the impact of your own conversations and communication, but about what seeds you're planting, whether you mean to or not, in other people. So now I have this whole story that I want to tell about, and I'll share it with your listeners now, so they'll hear it before it's anywhere. But thinking about being interesting, people often forget that the most interesting things are the stories that could only have come from your life. So ask yourself, if you're going to talk about something you believe, how did you learn to believe that? What was it that colored your experience? And it could have been anything. It could have been, oh, my younger brother and I used to go and buy pickles when we were kids on the way to school. And during that time, this is what happened, and this is what we learned from it. And that's what taught me as a person this thing that I'm saying. So your context, your specific stories, the things that happened in your life are your one-of-a-kind assets. That's what to share. That's what makes you interesting.
Wow, that's so powerful. I mean, definitely, as you were saying, your value is to empower people, and I feel, to be honest, I feel empowered right now. Because it took me. Yeah, you did it. No, because it took me some time even to start this. It took me some time to think that I may bring value to people, or I may be, interesting enough, or it may, so so many things, many negative stuff that came across, or you're not good enough, or you will never do this, and it's having you speaking this way to me and also to the listener is like, wow. And definitely empowerment is there in your words, and I feel so grateful about being able to speak to you, and it really touched me, to be honest. You really got into things that are important, I think, at least to me. And it's fantastic to receive that message, and I think we should definitely support each other more, and help each other out more, and get the potential out of people. And I think that's what coaches like you do. And so I just want to say a huge thank you, Lila, for being today with me. And yeah, I can't wait to share this with the audience. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and for your advice and the conversation we've just had.
Thanks for inspiring me, Christina. I think there are things that I'm thinking now that could only have come from this conversation with you. So thank you for everything that you've given to me and for sharing what you do with your audiences so that they can grow and learn too.
Thank you so much.